Welcome back, you guys. Welcome back to your Backup Plan Tribe. I'm so excited for today's show, Cult Chronicles, Christine's Fight Against Cult Manipulation. Well, we talk about cults sometimes on our show, and we talk about narcissistic relationships, and we talk about all sorts of good and fun things like that, and taboo subjects, since it's Talking Taboo with Tina. But, we don't talk about what happens when you realize you're in a cult and then try and get out, and then what's after that. And Christine's going to share all of that good information. If anybody is familiar with the documentary Shiny Happy People, and it was brought around by the Advanced Training Institute by Bill Gothard. She has, there's a saying on the back of her bio, and it says, "You really don't know what's going behind the smile, the dress, and the doors of the house down the street." And that's so, so true. My camera here is kind of off kilter. There we go. That's better. I don't even know what to say, because it's so true. You really don't know. Now, her cult was a little bit different, and she's going to give us all the explanations and talk about this with you all, because it's not a cult where they bought 50 acres and they all live on this own land and have their own food and grow their own vegetables and animals. No, it's not like that. They're spread across North America, but they still have strict guidelines. And it's probably even more strict because it's out in the regular world of the public. So, very interesting story. I'm so excited to have Christine come on our show, and we're going to have her come in. Let's get the party started, guys. I can't wait to talk about all the stuff about this cult that she was part of. So let's get the party started. See you back in a flash.
In the blink of an eye, life can change dramatically. On our podcast, Talking Taboo with Tina, we delve into these life-altering events with celebrities, authors, and everyday people just like you. You'll also discover your Backup Plan app, a life-organizing tool designed to prepare you for any unexpected circumstance. It's your safety net, taking the sting out of tragedy. Imagine a plan B that ensures your finances are safe, even in the worst-case scenario. But it doesn't end there. Join our vibrant Facebook group for free webinars on backup planning and secure your future today.
And we're back. All right, let's get the party started. Christine wasn't really a part of the documentary Shiny Happy People, which I'll have to find out from her where you can read up or watch those episodes. But grab her book, because I don't want to forget that the information on Amazon is down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and you'll be able to follow up and see if Christine comes on for part 2 about our great story. So let's get the party started. Now, Christine, did I say your name right? Fayor?
No, it's Faur.
Faur. Okay,
yeah,
thank you. Christine Faur, and she was part of an ATI cult, in short form, Advanced Training Institute. She is an author of Behind the Dress, a cult survivor, and a previous cult mom. And you are going to show us what that looked like on your...
Oh, now I can't find the card. Hang on.
Now, you're from Newfoundland.
I am. Okay, here. Oops, wrong card. Hang on. This moo, they give you options of having different things on each card. So
yeah.
So I'm going to show you. This is my card, and it has my contact for Behind the Dress and that.
Right.
And on the back is a picture of the intro to an interview that I did on YouTube. And it was called Shiny Happy People, Cult Mom. So I'm there, you know, you can see my big face, and sitting in the corner there in my long dress. And then the two guys that interviewed me are there also. And yeah, so that's,
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's I'm excited to actually watch that and get your book after listening to you tell me a little bit about your background. I am so excited to get the party started with you, Christine. You know, where did all of this start for you? Because you didn't even know it was a cult that
Oh,
you.
no.
So that's pretty hard to get out of something you don't know what you're in.
Yeah.
So where did it all start?
Well, I guess it started when I was, like I was saying, Tina, you know, like I was raised Catholic in Newfoundland, and I was teaching in Calgary, and I was home one year for a visit to Newfoundland to visit my parents. And I was flying from Stephenville, Newfoundland to Montreal and then on to Calgary. And so, anyway, I sat with this man on the plane, you know, the tall, dark stranger, and he was French, which made him very, very sexy. And so, anyway, we're there talking. We sat together on the plane, and we're talking about all these wonderful things and hopes and dreams and everything. And, you know, basically, I told him all I wanted was to get married and have babies and bake cookies and raise my family. And he felt the same. And I thought, wow, that's really good. And then all of a sudden, he turns to me and he says, "Are you a Christian?" And I thought, well, yeah, I'm a Christian. I'm a Catholic, but that's a Christian. But that's not what he was talking about. So he started getting into all this, oh, being saved and giving your life to the Lord and witnessing and all this terminology that we did not use in the Catholic Church. And it was very foreign to me. And so he started talking to me about a seminar that he had gone to. And it was given at the Queensway Cathedral in Toronto, where he was going to chiropractic school at the time. And so, you know, like we're there on the plane, and the plane landed in Montreal. And we got off the plane together because he was being met to go home to Trois-Rivières, and I had to change planes to head on to Calgary. And so, anyway, before he left me, he kisses me full on the lips, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, it was just, you know, I wasn't sure what happened. And so he asked for my phone number, and I gave it to him, you know, and I mean, in years since, I thought I should have given him the number to the pest control instead, but I gave him my number.
Or to the girlfriend that the friend at school that you hated.
Yeah. And so, anyway, you know, he started writing me and everything. And next thing you know, he invites me to come visit him in Toronto. And so I fly down to Toronto, and he was telling me all about the seminar. And the seminar had come to town, and it was called the Institute in Basic Life Principles, IBLP for short. And it was a week-long seminar, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday evenings, all day Friday and evening, and all day Saturday. And, you know, you go into that thing, like I think it costs like, I don't know, $20 or something, like very, very little. And you got this little red notebook, and you took all your notes in there while the leader taught. And the leader was this little man in a blue suit, and his name was Bill Gothard. And he was the most unassuming little man that you ever saw. But boy, could he influence people. And so, anyway, I went to that, and all week, you know, everything he said, he backed it up with scripture. And later
Is it still
on,
going on today? Are they
I
still
don't.
going on?
The Advanced Training Institute still exists. You can absolutely find it. You can Google Bill Gothard and you'll find him. He's fallen from grace. He's not the leader of the ATI anymore. But yeah, you can absolutely find it, because a lot of people still, they still follow that. But I mean, they've diminished a lot. So anyway, at the end of that seminar, you know, like it was very interesting. He had anecdotes and stories to tell with everything. And the week just flew by. And when it was over, you know, we were going back to the house after the seminar on the Saturday. And I just felt like the most wretched sinner in the whole world. And I thought, you know what, the only way for me not to feel like this wretched sinner was to give my life to the Lord right now. So I did. And I guess that I passed the first test to be with my then husband. A friend of mine, she calls them her husband. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
so anyway, then, as time went on, as they say, yada, 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 next thing you know, we're married and living in Trois-Rivières. And, so I had my first child. And then the advanced seminar came to Toronto, which was a follow-up to the basic seminar. And so I had this nursing baby in tow, and off we go to the seminar in Toronto. And this time, Bill Gothard took it a step further. He talked about financial freedom, meaning like owing nothing to anybody, not even for a house or a car, which is pretty kind of hard, And
Yeah.
he also talked about financial freedom, no debt, no loans, no credit cards, that type of thing. And so anyway, and then as the seminar was ending on the last day, he talked about his new home education program, which was called ATI, or the Advanced Training Institute. And, my husband at the time, he was just, oh my God, we have to get into this. We just have to do it. And I thought, not on your life. I married when I was 30. And by the time this little fellow, this babe in arms, would have been old enough, I'd have been, 37, whatever. And I thought, well, thank God he's going to have, 6 or 7 years to get that idea out of his head, because you couldn't enroll in the ATI if you didn't have children of school age. So anyway, the time passed and we brought the seminar to our churches. Our pastor was quite amenable to it because he had heard of Bill Gothard and he had gone to pastor seminars and that type of thing. So, we brought the seminar to the church, and, a lot of people said, like there's some good stuff in there, but you really got to pick and choose. And, of course, if Bill Gothard could hear that, he would have said, you can't pick and choose scripture. It's all God's word. But it was his interpretation of God's word. And so anyway, when our children, like when my oldest was six, I think, we applied. And my second child had been born, he was 4. And so we applied and we were not accepted because our oldest son wasn't old enough. So I thought, oh, thank God, I got another year,
Yeah.
to live type of thing. And so anyway, when the year passed, we ended up applying again. And this time we were accepted. Now, the application form was like a book. You had to sign all these things, like the husbands, all the men in the family, if there were men besides the father, no facial hair, no mustache, no beard. You had to send a family picture. All the females in the family were not allowed to wear pants. So you had to wear long dresses well below the knee and clothing up to the neck. No V-necks, nothing that would cause a man to stumble. And so anyway, we signed all that. And everybody in the house had to be part of the program. You couldn't, if you had somebody living in your house who was not part of your family, like maybe an uncle or, a friend or something who had fallen on hard times, that was really under scrutiny. So anyway, we the second year we applied, we got in. And so we had to go down to Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, from Montreal, for this other week-long seminar, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, all day Friday, and all day Saturday, just like
And
the
are they
baby.
costing you money for these things too?
Well, we were paying at the time, I think it was $900 a year for the tuition, and that included our materials. But going to Tennessee and staying in a hotel and all that, that was on us. So, like they required you to go down the first year, and after that, you weren't required to go down. And a lot of people didn't. But we went down almost every year. That ended up being our family vacation. And by, they had programs for young boys and young girls. And so we'd bring our children and we'd go. And like it was the most exhausting week imaginable. But while we were there, we would be totally brainwashed in how to live, because we would be shown everything, like don't let your daughters marry a divorced man. Of course, my husband at the time was divorced, So, you can imagine how he felt when that teaching came up, And, but I want to go back for a second, because like the night before we left to go to Knoxville, I didn't have dresses. I had a
Oh,
dress. I had a dress for Sunday church, because like we weren't in the program yet, right?
right,
So
right.
I had committed that I would wear them, but I didn't have any yet. I had pants and shorts and whatever.
Yeah, the
And
usual.
yeah, and so anyway, I'm sitting there on the edge of the bed, and the open suitcase is in front of me, and like I tell about this in the book, and I just, I'm crying, and, like I had my one dress in the suitcase and a few essentials. And I said, what am I going to do? I don't have the right clothing to go to this thing. And, like, and at that point, my husband would have moved heaven and earth for me to be on board to go. So we were planning to go a couple of days early anyway. So he said, like when we're there, like we're going to go to Gatlinburg and what's the other place there? Gatlinburg and I can't remember, Pigeon Forge. And there's all these outlet stores and everything. It's just outside of Knoxville. So he said, we'll buy you some clothes. Great. I'm on board. So I thought, well, I'm going to get a brand new wardrobe, And so
Yeah.
anyway, so we went through all the stores, the Eddie Bauer and the, Anne Klein and all these American stores. And so anyway, I ended up with a suitcase full of clothes. And, I really did fit in when I went to the seminar, and I looked around, and the first night, that we went, like on the Monday, oh my God, like you go in there in the Thompson Bowling Arena of the University of Tennessee campus, and like there's 10,000 people in there. The place was packed, and all the women were wearing dresses. All the young ladies had navy skirts and white blouses and a little tie at their neck. All the boys were wearing white shirts, navy pants, and a tie, and all the men were dressed appropriately. And you look around and you think, oh my God, I fit in. I really do. And then there's a big banner hanging from the ceiling in this big arena, and it says, giving the world a new approach to life. And I thought, oh my God, we're so lucky to be here. Oh, I'm so grateful. We are the cream of the crop of North America. And, that's really what we thought, right? And so anyway, and then, the seminar started, and just like the basic seminar, it was enthralling. We sat there and we wrote notes, and we wrote the whole time. I would fill out a whole scribbler throughout the week, and
Wow.
everything would be filled with like 9 reasons why daughters shouldn't have a job outside the home, and 6 ways to make your wife feel whatever, and it just, everything was lists and rules and regulations. And we'd go home with all these books that we had bought there and everything. And I got to tell you, at one time, the first time I was there, I've never seen so many pregnant women in my whole life. Every second woman was pregnant, because in this organization, we were taught that it's God that opens and closes the womb. Therefore, there will be no birth control. And of course, wives are supposed to submit to their husbands joyfully, eagerly, and call him Lord. So there were a lot of pregnant women there. And so, um, so anyway, I, standing there in line for food or something at one point, there was this woman there, and they all had these loose jumpers on and everything. I mean, I thought they were so cute, and
Yeah.
so anyway, I says to this one woman, I said, when is your baby due? And she says, I'm not pregnant.
Oh,
Oh, I am so sorry. I felt like a blooming idiot. And so I learned to keep my mouth shut, But the thing is in this organization, like they were into reversing sterilization procedures, because we're supposed to build an army for the Lord. And they do talk a lot about that in Shiny Happy People in the
oh,
last segment. Yeah. And so, there's some scripture that talks about, about a warrior, and his quiver is full of arrows. So the children are likened to the arrows in the quiver, right? And so every year, people were encouraged that, If the men had a vasectomy, they should have a reversal. If women had their tubes tied, they should have a reversal. So like another surgery in effect. And then, I mean, they'd be trying to get pregnant again in their 40s or whatever. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine if that's what you want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to
Yeah.
do it out of a sense of shame and guilt is absolutely horrendous. And so every year at the seminar, they'd have a time when all the reversal babies, as they called them, babies that were born to parents who had had a reversal surgery, all the reversal babies and their mothers would parade down in front of the big stage, and everybody would
Oh,
clap. Yeah, and so it was
kind of like an award kind of thing.
yeah. It was really pathetic because some of the people that we met down there, we met people from all over the states, and you know, we're all in the same boat, but we all thought it was wonderful because we were the chosen. And but the thing is that every year we'd go down there and we'd see the same people. I mean, but the line of children behind them was longer every couple of years. And because we were in this program for 14 years, and they looked more and more tired and haggard. Not the men, the women, because they were undergoing pregnancy after pregnancy, servicing their husbands, just doing everything that they were told to do.
And the schooling part too.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And the schooling was brutal. And, you know, but not just the schooling, the discipline, because, you know, like it's hard enough just in a family to, you know, get your kids to do what you want them to do. But when you're the mom, as well as being the teacher, it's pretty rough, you know? And so, I mean,
plus you had those guidelines of hitting and what do you call it when they do something wrong? I guess they had certain conditions.
Well, they used to get spanked. And, you know, like that was heartbreaking, you know, like the first year or two, you know, just give them a swat, whatever. And then a family coordinator came to our home. And this was like, there was two young men they were actually from Ontario. And they contacted us and they said, you know, well, we're your family coordinators. And so, and most of the young people, you know, that I talked to, you know, prior to this interview, they'd never heard of a family coordinator. And I guess my kids didn't know who these guys were that came because they played with my kids and they'd do piggyback with them and all that. And so one evening we'd be sitting around the table and, you know, one of my kids is not behaving. And so the one guy, he says, Christine, you know, he says, you're doing all right, but he's like 18. And I'm 40. I'm 40. And he says, but your little guy here, he's just taunting you. He's not listening. I said, yeah, whatever. And that's like, well, what are you supposed to do? You know, like, I mean, I felt like a giant biological function. Like I had no time to myself, you know. And so anyway, he introduced us to the Pearl style of discipline. That is, there's this couple, Michael and Debbie Pearl. They live in the hills of Tennessee somewhere. I'm not sure if they were ever in ATI, but they certainly adhered to all the principles that, you know, the wife adores her husband and they spanked and spanked and spanked their kids. And
spanked their wives?
I don't know about that. Like I only was recently introduced to the wife spanking thing, you know, like I'd never heard of that before, but apparently it's a thing in some denominations. But they wrote this book and it's called To Train Up a Child. It's a little book about 80, 90 pages. And they used to sell it for like $2.50. And if you bought 10 copies, you get it for $2 each. And so we thought, oh, this is very good. You know, so I was buying 20 copies at a time, having them sent up from the States and all that. But basically what it was telling you to do was child abuse, you know, to get a switch out there from the tree or a wooden dowel or something and just start bang, 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 put the kids' hands on the table and stick out their rear end and just hit, 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 hit. It was absolutely horrible. And the kids
too bad you don't have one of those books still.
You know what? I wish I did. I think they're still available though. If you go on Amazon and like, I can't believe some of this garbage is still
Really?
for sale. Yeah. There was, and like, so there was that. And then the wife, Debbie Pearl,
Yeah.
she wrote a book called Created to be His Helpmeet. And so help me God, I bought that book and I felt like the most rotten, shamed, inadequate person on the face of the earth. And I kept reading it and kept reading it. Maybe I could be better somehow. And it really it was all, it was garbage. And at the time I lived in Montreal. And so I remarried after several years, and I moved to Nova Scotia, where I am now. And that book was still with me. And I thought, oh my God, Christine, get rid of the damn book. And so, anyway, there's a secondhand bookstore not far from here. And so I brought the book there. And, you can bring your books there and you get a credit type
Yeah.
of thing. And so, anyway, it was there for a few years. I've looked for it recently so I could buy it back and destroy it, but it's gone. So, some poor sucker bought it. And it was just awful. Like, it was like, basically the message was that if there's something wrong in your marriage, if your husband is not happy, if your husband leaves you, it's your fault. It's always your fault. And like, that's pretty heavy load to carry. And yeah, so
There's probably some men out there agreeing with you right now.
yeah, no kidding, no kidding. And so like, that was like one part of it. And then like, the other part, like the restrictions placed on us, like, there was to be no TV in the home. So we used to have a
Wow.
TV. Yeah, we had a TV that we kept in the closet, and during football season my husband would pull it out and his friend would tape the football game, and he would watch it the next day, because we had no cable, we had no access to anything, we weren't hooked up to anything. And so that's how we used the TV. And we used it like to play VeggieTales videos and stuff like that. And, the presumption being that when like, there's a lot of people that you wouldn't open your door to, like crooks and robbers and, bad guys type of
Right.
thing. Yeah. But when you open the TV, you're inviting them right into your living room. And so that really hit me. And, but there's, not everything on TV is bad. Like, come on. And
Yeah.
the other thing that really to this day affects me is there was no rock music. Like, basically the music, not even Christian rock. The music that we listened to, it was marches, hymns, and classical. That's it. And so I think I told a little story in my book about, I'm from Newfoundland, and we have,
You had a lot of music.
we do, and jigs and reels and toe tapping music and all that.
Country kind of folk, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and like accordion and all that stuff that really
Yeah.
makes you, livens you up. And so, anyway, when we purged the house of all the bad music, I kept my Newfoundland music. And one day I was, my husband's chiropractic clinic was in the basement of the house, and I was upstairs with the children. We were having a little snack break, and so I, put the CD of some Newfoundland music in the ghetto box, or the boom box, whatever they called them back then. And I started playing it. And of course, it makes you start going. And I took my little fellow up in my arms, and we started twirling around and shrieking and laughing and, just running around the kitchen, just having a good old time. And my husband came up the stairs, because I guess he had a few minutes with no patient in the clinic. He says, turn off that music. He said, that's not godly music. And I thought, oh, okay. So I turned it off and I went back to whatever it was I was supposed to be doing. And, but it crushed me. I've never forgotten that.
Yeah.
And, I felt so guilty because I had kept this ungodly music,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even, like at church, like either we'd go in late or we'd leave the sanctuary or whatever when all the rock music would play. And that's, of course, when everybody else would be, clapping and hands in the air and waving and just really, doing their thing.
Enjoying music.
Exactly. And so, of course, we'd stand there stoically. And I mean, like inside, like your feet are tapping and all that, but you couldn't do it. And so by and by, we ended up forming a house church. And so now we had a home clinic, a home school, and a house church. So we were isolating ourselves more and more and more. And what we believed, like we believed all this stuff, but other people were living normal lives and they were very happy, and they thought we were off the wall. They said, you're like, this takes the cake, making your own church. Like, who's your authority? What are you going to do? Yeah. And, we like, basically our thing was, we're too holy for our church,
Yeah.
But, and, just as a wife, deferring to my husband all the time. I have a photograph here of one day. I tell about this in the book. One day we had another couple come for supper, and so they didn't say anything at the time, but oh God, I don't even know where the picture is now. I must have lost it. But anyway, after my marriage broke up, I went, like, it was my pastor, right? And so after my marriage broke up, I went to him. Like, he wasn't my pastor anymore because we'd been house churching for so long. And so anyway, oh my God, when you're looking for it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where it is. Maybe it'll turn up. Oh, isn't that sad? Anyway, so this couple, they were there, and like, it was our pastor and his wife, and they were a lovely couple. And so, like, we weren't going to the church anymore. We were house churching, but we invited them out anyway, because we still, used to visit with them and all that type of thing. Yeah. And so anyway, they come out for supper, and we had a lovely evening together, and then they left. And a couple of years later, my husband left me, and I went back to the church. And so this pastor, he welcomed me with open arms, big hugs. He actually married my present husband and I. And, he said, tell me what happened. Like, what on earth happened? And I said, I don't know. I'm still reeling from shock. But, we talked and we talked and we talked. He said, when we went to your place for supper that time, and he said, when we left, we said, really nice couple, but Christine seems to be really held back. It's like she's afraid to say anything without getting her husband's approval. It sounds like, or it looks like, she's got the clampers on her. And, like, I mean, I used to be quite the lively person. Yeah,
it's
like,
hard not to be from Newfoundland.
I know. I wish I knew where that picture went. Like, I had it like 20 minutes ago. But anyway, so that the picture that I wanted to show you was a picture of us with that couple at supper. And, he said it looked like, you had to, before you opened your mouth, you had to look at your husband, and it wasn't like an adoring
get
look.
approval.
Like, yeah, pretty much. And so, like, it'd be like, is it okay if I say this? Is this all right? Because he'd often contradict me, and I'd feel like, oh my God, I can't do anything right, But and so anyway, in saying that the women are responsible for men's bad behavior or otherwise.
Their good behavior and bad behavior?
Well, their bad behavior, like, if you get raped, it's because you did something, So the boys and the men were always told to avert their eyes if there was an immodestly dressed woman in the vicinity. So one year before we went to the seminar in Tennessee, we went to Myrtle Beach. Like the seminar was always like a Memorial Day weekend, I think, in the States. So it was like the end of June. So it was hot out. So we go to Myrtle Beach. Well, there's all these women in bikinis and all kinds of stuff. And here's me in my 3-piece bathing suit, dressed up to the neck and down to the knees.
Yeah,
And
describe that.
Oh my
Describe your bathing
God.
suit.
Well, yeah, like, so we're supposed to be all this modesty and everything. So my 3-piece bathing suit consisted of spandex pants that went down to my knee, and then a tank top over that, and then a little dress, very loose and bluesy, with a flap that came over the front to hide your boobs, and a little frill on the shoulders. Like, it looked like a little play dress, really. I mean, if you weren't thinking, well, this is a bathing suit, you could probably say, oh, well, isn't that cute? But it wasn't. It was really disgusting. One time I went to a water park with a friend, and here I am wearing my modest bathing suit in the wave pool. And the attendant was there. You come over here. You can't go in the pool in your clothes. You have to wear a bathing suit. And I'm there in French. This is my bathing suit. And like, it was just insane. But anyway, here we are at Myrtle Beach, and the boys had to avert their eyes, right, so that they wouldn't look and lust upon a woman at 16 years old. So this is my son. Whoops. Averting his eyes. Note the towel over his head.
Oh, poor guy.
And his nose buried. I don't know if he was reading a book or what he was doing, but like, isn't that pathetic or what?
Yeah.
So, and and there was so much of that. Like, everything had to do with making sure you didn't get raped. And even if like a 2-year-old was sexually molested, they would say, oh, well, it's because she was making cutesy at the man.
Whoever.
Yeah, like, like, it's just, what it did was it exonerated men of all responsibility of bad behavior. And, it was bad. Like, when I found the Recovering Grace website, like, when I didn't know it was a cult until 10 years after I was out. And I got out when my husband left me for another woman. Right. We were teaching modesty and purity culture. And purity culture is basically saving yourself for one person. You'd be a one-woman man. And, there was a book going around at the time by a guy named Joshua Harris, and it was called I Kissed Dating Goodbye. It was a very popular book, and I think, it probably made him fairly wealthy at the time. So he kissed dating goodbye. He married this girl. They had a couple of kids, and they ended up divorced. And he rescinded everything he said in that book because it was a crock. It was an absolute crock. And well, according to him, it was. And so where was I going with all this? I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, so we're there in this purity culture and everything, and my husband decides he's going to look up a high school sweetheart. And so anyway, he finds this woman and he starts dating her. And, he comes to me, like, well, this is what's going on.
And you didn't know. And you didn't know anything.
How would I know? I mean, of course, that year I got mono. And, like, I thought, well, like, as far as what I knew, you only got mono like from another person. And if he didn't have mono, like, well, where did I get the mono if I didn't get it from him? And, I've since learned that you can get mono, like it's a virus, I guess. But, I'm pretty sure I got it from him now. But yeah. So, like that summer of 2004, I got mono, and I was really in a very bad way. I was sick as a dog. I thought I was dying. And, when I found out I had mono, it was like, what? How does that happen? When you're in this purity culture, marriage and all that. So effectively, like, we weren't doing that well as a couple anymore. But I I went off to Newfoundland with my youngest. By then I had 3 kids, and I went to Newfoundland with my youngest, and I thought, this is going to be my life from now on. I'll go to Newfoundland. I'll go to Toronto to visit my aunt. I'll go here, I'll go there, but I can't stay home. It's toxic. And so, but when I came back from Newfoundland in the summer of 2004, that's when he made his big announcement to me. And, like, he called me down into his office, and he sat me down in the chair where the patients sit. And, he told me all about meeting back up with this woman, and that he wanted to spend some time with her to see if he'd be with her or with me.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, no kidding, eh? And so then he went to see her on Thanksgiving weekend that year. And effectively, I called him and I said, you can't come home. And while he was gone, I had all the locks changed on the house. I took everything that was in the house that he owned, and I put it out in the main entrance. And he had to go find somewhere to live, like on the spot. And I thought, hey, you made your bed, go lie in it, but you're not getting back in here. There's no way. And so that was effectively the end of the marriage. And so, like, at that point in time, like I had told you previously, Tina, I put my youngest in school. I'm getting mixed up with what I told you before and where we're going now. But I put my
and he was 5. You said he was 5.
No, he was 9, 8 or 9, yeah. And so he was going into grade 5, as a matter of fact. And my older 2, one was already in university, the other one was in Cégep because we were in Quebec. And so I just put my youngest in school, and effectively that was the end of being in the cult. But I still didn't know it was a cult. And so anyway, after that, I muddled around for several years and all that. I remarried, but I always had these problems, traumas, triggers. I still went to a church, and there was stuff that would just, they'd sing a certain song and I would be reduced to a puddle on the floor type of thing, because I knew there was something very wrong. But then in 2014, I stumbled upon a website called recoveringgrace.org. And it's still there, and it's still very active if anybody's interested in having a look. But in that website, it was like a Gothard Generations shines light on the truth. And in that, people who were raised in ATI were telling their stories, and they were telling them, and they were being believed. And a lot of it had to do with sexual indiscretions on the part of Bill Gothard. Then it was he was charged, and of course the statute of limitations came into play, and and on and on and on. Like that's another story, and it's, like I say, it's not mine to tell. But because of that website, I realized finally that, oh my God, we were in a cult. This was a cult. Yeah. And the interesting thing was that Bill Gothard,
he was the leader, right? So
yeah.
And you were telling me about when he would tell the girls to come in and pray.
Yeah. And he used to, like, I mean, these young people had been trained to like, not be around members of the opposite sex, not to be in a room alone with a member of the opposite sex, to a 6-inch rule, like no touching, no hand holding, no kissing, no nothing. So if anybody was caught, like they had all these headquarter type of buildings where young people would go down there to get some work experience. Really, it was free labor for Bill Gothard, because you had to pay to go there, and then he put you to work. But so then, like, he would choose, like, he had a type, and so he'd choose a girl and he'd invite her up to his office after hours so that they could pray together. And he'd ask her about her sex life and all kinds of things like that, like totally inappropriate. And then so they'd kneel down side by side to pray, and he'd start playing footsie with them or rubbing shoulders with them. And that doesn't sound like a terrible thing, but this was an old man, for crying out loud. And these were like 20-year-old women. And they had been instructed not to be close to a man, not to be alone with one. But here was the big boss doing this to them. So all this, and that caused an awful lot of mental illness with these young women and everything. And yeah, it was really bad. And so anyway, through that, you know, like I found out, and like I was going to say, Bill Gothard used to teach us how to recognize a cult. And he would give us these guidelines, you know, like they're secretive, they're this, they're that. And we were it. We fit all the definitions. Yeah.
You ticked all the boxes.
We did. Which is just insane. And, you know, and then I finally believed that it was a cult. And, you know, like by now, my kids, I had one in Toronto, one in Montreal, one in Nova Scotia. And I called them one by one. I said, guys, we were in a cult. And they said, oh, Mom, for God's sakes, you know, like, just get a life. I said, no. We really, really were. You have to look at this website. And, you know, I don't think they ever did until after Shiny Happy People. And that was when their eyes really opened. And, you know, so once I found that out, I realized, oh, that's why my thinking about so many things is skewed. I don't think like other people. I have different opinions than other people. And it was because of the brainwashing of ATI. And
manipulation, of course.
Oh my God. Like it was just, but I didn't see it as manipulation. I thought I was being well taken care of. Like, hello. And so once I found that out, like I became the verbal diarrhea woman. I just couldn't stop talking about it. And everywhere I went, people would say, you know, Christine, you were in a cult, weren't you? And I'm, yeah, I was. Tell us about it. You know, well, how did you dress? What did you do? You know, did you really do everything your husband said? Why did you get into that? Like the questions were endless. And I realized.
Did the women ever talk about that amongst each other? No?
No. We blindly.
Like did the men, because they had all the power, it went to their head and then they could ask for anything from their women?
Pretty much, yeah. And they took liberties. Some of them, we read nowadays about, like, and on the Shiny Happy People, one woman got up and she talked about how she was sexually abused for years by her father. So, you know, but it excuses them. And I mean, like, you know, Bill Gothard would probably say, oh, well, you know, you bent over or you were immodest or something, some stupid thing. But, you know, trying to unravel and deconstruct my life and my belief system after finding that out, it was brutal. It was just brutal. And, you know, so whenever I'd be in a group of people, which was fairly often, you know, like they'd ask me, you know, like about this cult and everything. And they say, you should really write this down. And, you know, I thought, I'm not sure I want to. But it took me 4 years actually to write my book. And I'm awfully glad I wrote it, because I wrote it for 2 reasons. And one was to just get it out of my system, just get it out. And, you know, just tell my story. And, you know, I held back a lot because I didn't want to hurt my children. I didn't want to inflame my ex. I didn't want to embarrass my brothers and sisters. You know, I shouldn't have worried about all those things because I have some family members who don't approve. My ex, I don't think he read my book. I talked to him at one point. He says, oh, I heard you wrote a book. You know, and like I changed every name in the book, but I mean, like he was just referred to as my husband. And my kids, they're very proud of me for having written it. And so I wanted to just, I don't know how much time we have left, but I just want to show you like the cover of the book.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So here's the book. It's called Behind the Dress. Now, if you look, I'm wearing this big long dress. Where's the picture now? Oh, here's another picture of me in a big long dress with my parents.
Oh, yes.
See that? Like, is that? Oh, it's just terrible. But anyway, Where is this one?
It's like the 1800s or something.
Oh, it's awful. It's worse than that. But anyway, so the thing is that we were to, this here is opposite.
Yeah.
So we were to dress, you know, in a way that would not defraud anybody. And defrauding is to stir up desires and emotions. So I was dressed.
What about your period and stuff? So what would happen? Did they have rules around that?
There were some Levitical rules in the Bible, but, you know, I think Bill Gothard was never married, so he didn't really, you know, I don't think he could say too much about that. But you can see I'm dressed down to the ankles, down to the wrists, up to the neck. And that's how we were to dress. The man could dress the way they wanted. So behind the dress, I use that title because behind the dress was my body that was hidden. I wasn't allowed. It was me. I wasn't allowed to show my body. Nothing that would define the female shape, you know? And behind the smile was a world of misery. That was the phoniest smile in the world. And an old friend that I grew up with in Newfoundland, he bought my book and he said, he wrote me and he said, you know what? I'm reading your book, he said, and I am crying because I feel so bad, you know, about the life you led. And he said, that girl on the front is not the person that I knew. This is the person that I knew.
Yeah.
This is me now. And he said, it's so different, you know, and he said, I'm so sorry for what you went through, type of thing. And yeah, it was tough.
So in
here's the picture.
In a rough.
Sorry.
Oh, there it is. There we go.
Yeah. This was me right here. Yeah. With my youngest on my lap, and beside me is the couple that had come for supper. And they're the ones who said, oh, you know, you weren't yourself, you know, that type of thing. Yeah. So yeah.
So to wrap up, the book is available down below in the description box with the link from Amazon. There is also Shiny Happy People documentary. And where could people find that if they're looking?
The Shiny Happy People docuseries was put on by Amazon Prime. Okay. And yeah, so if you have Amazon Prime, or even if you get a free trial of it, it's 4 parts and they're about 45 minutes each. And yeah.
All right. And the website that you said to look at was Raging.
Recovering Grace.
Recovering Grace. Okay.
.org. Yeah. That, and like, I mean, you know, I don't know how much people want to get into that, but that was the beginning of exposing Bill Gothard. If it wasn't for Recovering Grace, there would not have been a Shiny Happy People docuseries, because Recovering Grace brought it all to the forefront. Yeah. So.
Okay. And what final message would you like to give the listeners?
Well, I just thought I would mention, hang on.
One of your quotes.
Like, what? Yeah, I wanted to, like my last chapter in the book, it's called I Can See Clearly Now. Whoops, here we go. And so I just want to read you a little bit from it, because it tells about what I used to believe when I was in the cult and what I now know to be true. So, you know, and like, if I had any message to say to anybody, it would be, if you have done something wrong to your children or whatever, like I did, acknowledge. You know, if you're an abusive husband, if you're an abusive mom, if you're anything, you know, once you know, acknowledge and apologize and make it right. That is so important. But I just want to tell you a few things that what I used to believe.
Sure.
And it's all because of the false beliefs that I had during the cult years. So I used to think that I needed a strong-minded man to lead me and tell me what to do. Now I know that I don't need to be led. I can make my own decisions. I used to be afraid to express an opinion because what I said might contradict what my husband would say. Now I express myself because I'm an individual with my own thoughts and opinions. I used to find value in who my family was, what my husband did, and how well I followed a prescribed set of rules and regulations. Now I find value in who I am, what I like, and how I relate to the world. I used to think that dressing modestly meant wearing long dresses and not showing any flesh, like wearing sleeveless tops, skirt slits, and a V-neck shirt. Now I know that to be modest is more of an attitude than of covering flesh. There's a world of difference between dressing like a nun and dressing like a woman. I used to believe that my life was to be spent in service to my family and that I had to die to my own interests and aptitudes. I've since learned that pursuing my interests, like writing, quilting, rug hooking, knitting, and being outdoors, are important to my own well-being, and that makes me a better wife, mother, and friend. And, like I go on, but, like I would say, if you're interested in cults, you might be interested in this book. But also, if you've ever found yourself in a controlling situation, whether it's your marriage, your workplace, school, whatever.
Boyfriend.
Oh, absolutely. You really need to put up your boundaries, and you might enjoy reading it. In the beginning of the book, I talk about sneaking into the bank. Like if you go on Amazon, you get to read the first chapter, and I'm sneaking into the bank 5 years after Y2K with $30,000 in $20 bills, all mildewed. And I was afraid of my own shadow. I was afraid I was going to squeak. I was going to croak. It was terrible. So yeah, like I would say this.
Fear is and shame are an awful thing to live
they
around.
Really, yeah. And when you finally overcome all that, and I won't say I've arrived, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you to your writing abilities and you getting that great book out. I don't know. I'm going to make sure I watch Shiny Happy People and I'm going to order your book.
Oh, and if I could just add, right now on Amazon Canada, my book is on sale. They put it on sale. Like the list price was $27, but you can get it for $16, which is amazing,
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And the Amazon link is down below. Did you make it available on the UK and the United States Amazon as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
all over the world.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Wow, what a story. I feel like I just watched a movie in really quick format. Because you see these other types of cults and they all have something, a factor that's the same in all of them, of control of some sort.
Yeah.
Of fear, of shame. It's just so unfortunate. And it's so unfortunate that you didn't even know you were in a cult to get out of the cult, so.
Yeah, to this day, I'm not sure that my ex-husband even acknowledges that it was a cult. It's really tough. And most parents, like I've talked to many young people, and their parents are still following the principles. And I think it's really hard for a parent, even of adult children, to say, I was wrong.
Yeah.
This was not a good thing. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
and a lot of them don't talk to their kids. Well, the kids don't talk to them because they start imposing their rules and regulations. Yeah. So
yeah, and the other people have grown and changed and gone out to the real world and can see there's two worlds there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for the family, for the family loss and everything. Well, thank you, Christine. That was quite the story, and maybe we could do a part 2 and talk about the other things that, maybe that you noticed that you didn't notice Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I just want to thank you for having me on. I wasn't too available last fall, but now I thought, you know what? It's
It's
time.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
And,
I really appreciate you having me.
and I really appreciate your story and appreciate you and appreciate your book. And I'm looking forward to reading it. And I'm looking forward to, just putting it out there for other women and men who have either been touched by that type
Mhm.
of cult, or if they've found even some having experiences within it of some sort.
Yeah. Yeah. I just would like, before we leave each other,
Yeah,
I would just love to read the dedication. It's 3 lines.
yeah, yeah.
I dedicated it. I said, this memoir is dedicated to all the women, be they wives, mothers, daughters, or grandmothers who have survived a cult, but especially the cult that was the Advanced Training Institute. So,
Thank you. Yeah, well, that's
yeah,
perfect. So that gives everybody lots to watch and read coming up then.
absolutely.
Oh, that's interesting. No, I love to have you come back. It would be a great experience just to talk about it in some more detail. I mean, what can you talk about in an hour, really?
Oh,
It's just,
there's a lot, even in the whole book. Like, I've started making a list of backstories that I didn't include in the book.
yeah,
So yeah, there's a lot. Yeah.
especially when you are writing and you think after maybe, oh, I forgot that part, and oh, I forgot that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so, so very much. And thank you from, I met Christine and I was so happy that she'd say that she would like to be on the show. And so thank you, Christine. Thank you so
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um, Thank you to everybody for listening. I hope that you've learned something from our show. That's what we're all about, talking taboo with Tina. We talk about traumas, we talk about tragedies, and we talk about changes in our lives that made us having to live in a different way. And that might be by uh, figuring out that you are in a cult or in a bad relationship or in a bad boyfriend girlfriend situation or partnership or whatever it might be. But to be able to get your stuff together to get out is so very important. And we do help with that as well as for those people that have hurricanes or tornadoes or earthquakes to get their stuff together, and how to do that is all over on our free webinars on our Facebook group. So thank you for coming on. We're not Superman. We think we are, but we're not. So we need to figure out a way to get our stuff together in one place so that if anything happens to us, or if you need it for any particular reason in the future, that it's there for you when you need it the most. So thank you, everybody, for coming on our show. I love to have you. If you haven't liked, shared, and subscribed to our show, share it with others. It's a fantastic story that Christine brought to us today, and we'll have her come back and talk about more great stuff within the ATI cult. Thank you, Christine. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thanks, everybody. I'd love to see you again. I have another show tomorrow, so I'll see you tomorrow. Best wishes, stay safe, and be kind. Till tomorrow. Bye.